Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all on Feygin Live. It's Monday, August 1st, 10 p.m. Kiev time, and we, as usual, are doing our planned stream, day 159, with Olexiy Arestovych. Glad to have you here, Olexiy. Good evening, glad to see you all. We had 2 days of interruption, a lot of events that happened during that time, and of course, we'll discuss all that. There's a lot of subjects to address today. Big ask for all the viewers. We have about 100,000 watching us live already. Please share your links. Try to increase the audience. Leave your likes. If you have not subscribed to the English version, the privateer station, subscribe to that. And of course, subscribe to Feygin and Arestovych. Alright, let's start with a general overview. As we usually do, follow the front line. Here's the map. Let's start from Kharkiv. Top 11. There's still positional fighting there. They keep hitting it with artillery, missiles. Nothing important there otherwise. Both sides are just exhausting themselves. Russia is not adding any reserves. They're fighting with what they have. From Balaklia, in the middle of the map with the red arrow, they decided to try to go towards Kharkiv. Probably due to our troops' activity. Our guys on Bravinkova direction kicked enemy's butt and moved them to Brashkivki. That's the gray area that we took back. If we go more to the east, Svetogorsk and Prishib, you can see those two red arrows at about 6-ish p.m. They're trying to attack that again. 100 days plus, nothing works. Siversk, they also trying to attack Serebryanka, Grigorievka. They keep getting themselves killed at the defenses. Same situation from Belogorovka, Berestova. They're really trying to get that intersection of roads that is to the east of Bakhmut, but not successful so far. And they're trying to do the same thing as they did near Lysychansk, create some threat and force our troops to withdraw. Their ideas do not change. They want to advance to the north and to the south of Bakhmut and force our troops to withdraw without getting into the close fighting. I see this perspective as pretty nebulous, because most of the troops are taken away from this direction. They basically have a little bit of Russian troops left, and also so-called armies of so-called republics, Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics. So, if when we started fighting for Lysychansk and Severodonetsk, they had about 30 battalion tactical groups in that corner. Now they have maybe 15 throughout the whole direction, from here down to Gorlovka. So all these red arrows, that's just 15 battalion tactical groups. Did they send them all to the south? Yes, they withdrew some to restore back in Russia, and most of them they sent down south. So right now, see, there's a couple more arrows down south. That's like 4 or 5 battalion tactical groups. They even portray some activity there, but there is nothing. No activity. Success. Let's zoom into those two red arrows. The top one directs at New York. The bottom one directs towards Avdiivka to try to encircle that. And they pushed for like a couple hundred meters separating the sides. started fighting and haven't really acquired anything. So I have big concerns about the success of that maneuver that they're pushing. I was talking the day before yesterday, 2 days before yesterday, they're just being pushed forward so they don't ask more stupid questions, stupid in parentheses. So if we look at Ugledar towards Yegorovka and Nikolska, we actually push them. That's south 7 p.m. See the gray and blue areas? We are pushing in. If we continue to the left, on Zaporozhye, there is some movement, but they're basically aggregating some troops there, and there is no general move. They're agglomerating them at 6 o'clock at Tokmak here, perhaps targeting Melitopol, but no major activity so far. And the other part is, of course, Kherson, the right side of the river. Now they have roughly the resources of 3 armies. It's about 30 battalion groups. It's about 25,000. So they took the troops and they dropped them all on that side. On the right bank there is about 25 battalion groups, and on the south they got another 5. So they had 15, they added 10. They basically pulled everything they could from all the other parts of the front. They have forward operating bases of 3 armies. Part of them are on the left, part on the right. There are a lot of command posts of airborne troops and other detachments. Why am I so particular naming them? Because they are really fat targets for our HIMARS. These great people, I think the general idea is to go to Kryvyi Rog and to go to Nikolaev, maybe encircling it from the north. We're trying to break through from Snegurovka to Voskresensky Nikolaev. Nikolaev is the city on the river on the 9 o'clock. So the citizens of Kryvyi Rog and Nikolaev who may have started fainting at this moment when I started talking about their cities, don't be so nervous. After taking a closer look at the readiness of Russian troops, it calls for a healthy skepsis or snickering looking at their numbers, because the numbers are inflated, not real. They don't have enough troops, the training is poor, equipment is subpar as well, but they do want to rush. So after about the 6th of August, we estimate them to be ready. Doesn't mean that they'll do everything on that day. They might postpone that a little bit, but in general, that's their task, to be ready by the 6th. There probably will be an attempt to attack, probably pushing it in different directions. That's their favorite idiotic move. And it seems like earlier war did not teach them to avoid that maneuver, as it just disperses the effort. So our task will be to kick their butt and then proceed with the earlier planned liberation of the right side. So I have a question. So these 30,000, no, not 30,000, about 25,000 people, battalion tactical groups. It's 30 groups, 25,000 people. All right, I'll take it. So do you have a corresponding amount of Ukraine troops to face them? We have some quantity of Ukraine troops. We're not clarifying, right? We're not talking details. Yes, sufficient and enough. Necessary and enough. 2 philosophic principles. Necessary, or the amount that's required, and amount that is enough. So I'm thinking that if you guys are planning to deoccupy the right shore, the right bank, then you probably have more than 2 people fortified there. Correct, a little more than 2. All right, so they managed to move a notable amount of equipment and troops to that area. You actually talked last time that on Kakhovskaya Dam they had about 800 of units of different equipment cross into the right bank. Yes, it did happen over several days that we're monitoring. So, did you guys control their movement with your fire? Or a good example, yesterday they had 40 carts, train with 40 carts of equipment, personnel, and ammo from Crimea. Today, these carts are gone along with personnel, equipment, and ammo. So you guys are controlling it somewhat, right? Yes, somewhat. We don't have a number of HIMARS to control everything there, but we do have enough enough tasty targets to point on the map with what we have. So let's talk about HIMARS. Reznik, Minister of Defense, said that you guys got 4 more HIMARS, and I have to mention here that you'll hear us talking HIMARS, HIMARS. In Ukrainian, we use HIMARS, and that American version of HIMARS, it sounds a little unnatural here locally, so just don't scream at us, All right. Yeah, I do have a couple dirty jokes in that relation, but I shouldn't. Okay, otherwise people will complain about us to YouTube. So today you got Mars 2. That's German system, right? Yes, that's the German modification of M270. All right. So getting these quantities that Reznik, Minister of Defense of Ukraine, mentioned, is it necessary and enough, as you said, philosophically, for the South? Okay, so everything that the West gives us, it would be nice to multiply by 2. Multiply by 10? No, 10 is a lot. Seriously, by 2. So with all the HIMARS we have, Ukraine can send 168 missiles. That's about 100 targets going to die after one volley. I want to say that the whole Russian bank of targets for us on the operative level from Kharkiv to Kherson is about 200 targets. As a military professional, I'm estimating they probably have 200 targets. So 168 versus 200, that basically tells in a day or two all these targets can be hit. Is there enough to hit all these 200 targets? We do. We do have. Americans adopted another package of support for us, and it mostly is consisting of missiles for HIMARS and HIMARS. Today also we had a manna from heaven. One of the Democrats, I'm trying to remember the name, sorry, doesn't come to my head, that they're going to give us ATACMS 300 kilometers reaching range. I forgot the name of the guy. And Siskin, good guy, we can talk to him if he ever gets on the show. So all that will be used, you think, on the South, since it's very urgent? Mark, nobody knows, but I suspect part of it will be, because where else? All right. Excalibur ammo, like Mario Puzo wrote, I keep my ear close to the ground. Are they going to be equipped? Oh yeah, we already have them. So this is GPS-controlled ammo. Yes, they hit very precisely, straight in the forehead of those who misbehave. Of course, you got a lot of those. Okay. Summarily, what can all this equipment provide? Let me count. Inability to advance and capture Nikolaev for Russians. or would it provide for a further opportunity to counterattack after you kick butt of those 30 battalion tactical groups, so that Ukraine perhaps could advance and deoccupy the south? Or would it allow to basically hold the front and Putin will lose everything, but will still retain Kherson and not give it back? So in theory, I again emphasize theory, these are not plans of Ukrainian management. All these ammo and tools could be used to interrupt their offensive and to create proper conditions for Ukraine counteroffensive. Why am I asking this question? Russian propaganda is already on it, that they've been talking so long. Even Zelensky issued an order that there'll be an offensive and taking back of the south, and nothing is happening. What do you mean nothing? It's already going in Zaporozhye and Donetsk regions. Well, liberation of Kherson. Liberation of Kherson is the general target of the operation. It doesn't usually, general purpose doesn't usually occur on the first day of operation. So if the enemy decided to do a preventive strike, we first need to bury them with their efforts and then go on with our plans. I want to say this is a stupidity from Russian command again and Russian leadership, because if they just take everything that they wanted to use to defend Kherson and throw it to attack our positions, that's an easier task for us to destroy them. If they would fortify and dig in and defend, that would be a difficult task for us. But like this, sure, we're waiting to welcome them. So Moscow is, Representative there, General Konashenko was saying that they do have some tools and they destroyed 2 HIMARS machines on the 2nd floor of some building. I have a question. Why are they sending him out with that bullshit? I'm not even talking about whether they succeeded or not, but what they're showing is completely unconvincing. Even for an idiot who is basically at a school education level, he'd probably be questioning the delivery of the news. They have 3 goals: to deceive their own people, to deceive West, and to deceive Putin. One of the tasks of Russian military is to keep deceiving Putin, because otherwise he'll probably cut their heads off for the way they fight. And this way they're just telling, yeah, we do have some issues, but look, we're progressing, it's slow, but we are. And by the way, see, we just destroyed 2 HIMARS. HIMARS are a difficult task, but see, we already destroyed 2. So Vladimir Putin is an idiot, and because he's believing in all these pictures. Is he seeing the same picture of the 2nd floor, or he doesn't? I don't know. Are they treating him with electricity in between the news stations? He is allowing to be deceived for probably a reason that he really, really wants to hear that idiocy that they're pouring into his ears. All right. Do they have any tools, anti-HIMARS solutions? Or they don't? It is very difficult to intercept HIMARS missiles. What can you use to intercept them? Why do they keep saying that they have something? It is a small cylindrical thing, not too big, flies hypersonic, can follow a ballistic trajectory. It is not easy to intercept or detect it. You possibly could do that if you're smart. They could use something like Tor, the ones that are using for air defense, but first of all, they don't have that many of them, and also we are being pretty smart about the way we shoot. And we haven't noticed that they were intercepting our stuff. I cannot rule it out. Maybe they could have shot a couple down. So intercept may happen only if you have Tor in that direction, and if you're expecting, it is a brain fight. It's the fight of a sword and a shield that's known for several thousand years. Each side is trying to guess the action of the other and trying to predict and shoot down aerial means of attack. It's doable, but it's very complicated. All right. I have another question, not me asking, we're being asked. So, you're answering and people make conclusions and ask more questions. So, Bayraktars and these kamikaze drones that you likely already have, those American kamikaze drones. So, sounds like Russia maybe got some means to be a little more effective on the front with their UAVs. Let's look at the command of Black Sea Fleet, Russian Black Sea Fleet command. Do you think they defended themselves well? Well, that was a weird news, that they got hit by some handmade UAV. Yeah, it is a more difficult piece of news because Crimean partisans assembled something on their knees, basically. It's like homemade DIY drone, and the command center of the fleet, which just lost their head ship, flagman ship in the ocean, they cannot protect themselves from a handmade amateur drone with a small explosive on it. And they got people wounded and dead. So how can they resist the enemy that has much more advanced drone systems, nominally, on the front? So they do have equipment. Do they have anything to shoot them down? They technically do, but it doesn't mean that they have it there. Plus, there are different secrets that I understand our operators could use. So, like one of the movie characters said, war is not who shoots whom, it's who outthinks whom. Nobody sends UAVs directly these days. It's got more sophisticated. And the army is an orchestra, in a way. And the best way is when it really interacts together. So those detachments that manage to organize that interaction well, they achieve goals much better. So here's a simple example for our non-military viewers. For example, there is a Russian electronic protection box standing out, vehicle standing out, covering the front. All of a sudden, there is an artillery bombardment. So what do? They turn it off and they hide, right? At that time, the UAV comes in. This is a basic idea, basic example of how to use it. I can probably invent another 50, and if you give me some time to think, another 10. But this is the usual tactic. You distract in one place and you attack in the other. Also, the one attacking is the one usually having initiative, so defense is at disadvantage very often. But you cannot hide and defend the whole front with what you have, those doors and other systems. So, we'll think it through and find a way to reach their command centers and other valuable targets. There was an interesting story that I overheard. Almost nobody paid attention to that, but there was a small notice in the media that Ukraine military got anti-radar missiles in their defense for our aviation. That means that all the anti-air defense systems in Russia, on the Russian front, they need to start praying 5 times more often than they did before. So, are they targeting radar systems? Oh yes, they do. They basically track the working emission from the station. So that missile is targeting the active working station and just hits it. Okay. It may be pretty painful. My military specialty is the operator of radio location systems, so yeah, that could be painful. We have 433,000 people watching us live. Over 110,000 left their likes. Despite that it's Monday, 1st of August, you are watching us, so that is very nice to see. Please share links to that cast, and please subscribe to Feygin Live, to Arestovych, and to the Privateer Station in English if you have not done that yet. The links are at the bottom of this video. Alright, next, let's talk about this. We're live for about 26 minutes. You see the story on Taiwan. Nancy Pelosi is flying to Taiwan, and I suspected the war would not start, and she eventually will reach the island. I was giving some interviews to Germans, and I'm only prognosticating here. I have no insight on that situation. But the interesting part for us, regardless if she gets there, how she gets there, how China reacts to this, Biden and Xi Jinping already conversed. How do you personally think this can affect the situation on the Eastern Front? Moscow, of course, they're not hiding their happiness. They're looking forward to any squabble with Taiwan, so Americans will get more involved there. And this should distract them. Do you know they put the Chinese stuff on the Ostankino TV station, saying that China were with you? By the way, in August, it once caught fire. There was a beautiful fire. I think that if anything starts in Kosovo or Taiwan or Iraq, places where it kind of started, this is more of a myth that Ukraine will be forgotten. Why do you think so? Well, why would Americans move all their attention to Taiwan and forget the European front completely? So Taiwan will be protected by American troops, as they promised. At the same time, there are no American troops in Ukraine. We're getting some military support that was signed for Ukraine, earmarked for Ukraine a few months already. It was written off the balance of the American military, and it's basically considered to be in transit to Ukraine. Then we have the transit starting to work. So let's take Second World War, where communication lines were much worse. America fought a sophisticated war in the Pacific, also fought in Africa, in Italy, in Sicily, and landed in Europe, and didn't really suffer much. Why would they suffer more attention difficulty in 21st century when it's much easier to communicate and to control things? Why would Ukraine suffer lack of attention in this case? They also have strategic commands in states. Each of them has its own responsibility. So that's American doctrine that considers having different war theaters, like in the East and one in Europe. So this is one of those other myths that kind of make me smile, that America all of a sudden will forget about Ukraine. I don't think that they'll forget about you, but it's more like Moscow will get an ally in the face of Beijing. So Chinese, for example, could start helping Russia more effectively. Frankly, if China starts a big conflict with the United States, they would have more issues than helping Russia, because China is 80% dependent on export to the United States. Every war is basically losing any kind of export to the states, plus sanctions. So how do you fight with somebody like that? I actually do not think China is in a good position to wage any war with an enemy like that. Despite all the military capabilities that are being assigned to them with carriers and naval powers and stuff, it is really difficult to fight with somebody who determines 80% of your economy income. Because in this case, what happens is click and your income disappears. So there could be some political issues and some motions, but in general, I don't believe there'll be a big conflict like that. If there is a conflict on the other front, then they start opening and exploring different dynamics of two conflicts, I think. Plus, an open conflict with China, do you know what opens for states? It opens what? It opens an opportunity to actually actively participate in European conflict, because after states would have to figure things out with China and duke it out over something in Taiwan, they likely would not be holding their fight in Europe. Because basically, if states succeeds in prevailing over China, then I don't think they'll ever be shy or remain shy in a conflict with Russia. Because the war with China is basically the most difficult, most dangerous thing that may happen in the world. And after states win that war and that conflict, they would not be too shy in prevailing in this conflict with us against Russia. So what about Kosovo conflict that just flared up again? On the preliminary data that we observe, there are Russian agents working in Kosovo. That's preliminary, that needs more confirmation, but it's interesting to hear that Serbs are taking these speeches by Vučić as annual inflammation of his psyche. So they're pretty calm about these active positions being broadcasted in the media. So if anything, those people who are against Russia, in this conflict with Ukraine, they get new cards and new reasons to remain active, because all of a sudden Russia is peddling another conflict much closer to the center of Europe. And basically that Kremlin cannot be stopped. It keeps firing things up in Europe. And the guys who wanted to have peace with Russia, they're losing the fight because they cannot throw anything against it. They cannot put a different good argument against, to support Russia in that flare-up in Kosovo. So, okay, I hear you. That's interesting. So about a quarter of what's watching us left their likes. We got 400 plus thousand people. All right, let's go to Yelenovka and what happened there. It's been somewhat slow, but as expected, Moscow is not letting Red Cross or any other organization to come in. They are pretending that they do want to start some investigation and that some actions from the Ukrainian side led to the death of prisoners of war on that side. I understand they're probably cleaning things up and trying to hide everything and maybe bring pieces of more HIMARS or anything they can find to that place. But they're kind of slow walking it, as if they don't really care, like people are dead and people are dead, nothing new here. Do you think it's because they already have done so much atrocities that they don't really care about this one? I think we discussed that there are probably 6 reasons I could name why is it happened. Why did that happen? So first of all, yeah, they needed to feed to their electorate the victory over damned Azov. Second, they do want to try to support the opposition in Ukraine and maybe send some of the relatives of Azov fighters to question the government here. Third is to try to pick on HIMARS and see if the West would continue support. Fourth is to provoke atrocities against their people in Ukraine and then say, well, look, everything is not black and white, it's just two animals fighting. We're not denying the atrocities of the Russian regime, but look, Ukrainians are not any better. This just continues to escalate and cause more deaths. These voices happen, and they likely will continue. So that's roughly the circle of considerations for such a murder. Our position is the same. If United Nations and Turkey gave a warranty that nothing will happen to prisoners of war, we do await their voices to address that tragedy. But they're quiet. Today, Macron called Russia, and in the official protocol it did sound like his position is that Russia is guilty for this event. And somebody already mentioned that there are thermobaric explosives planted in the building. Looking at the picture, it appears that they blew something up inside. One option is that they shot a couple of bumblebees. Shmel, it's a flamethrower. Or another option is to make a thermobaric explosion inside the building. So I want to highlight that when I speak about Turkey and Red Cross, this is not official position. This is my personal interpretation, because I don't know if Turks gave any guarantees. That remained a confidential part of the document. But if they did, I think they will not be able to stay silent. So we'll see. Again, they can be asking questions confidentially, but United Nations and Red Cross. The United Nations, I think for sure, already sent questions, and Red Cross, we're waiting for them too. We return with a request to send our commission, our parliament, commission on the human rights and international investigations. Investigation committee has also raised voice to send the investigative mission. But the thing is, they probably will not let anyone there, and might let eventually people when they'll put a new asphalt over the place, basically. You can still find things. It depends upon who goes and what questions do they ask. Because regardless of what they do at the location, you can still figure out things if you ask good questions. You're an attorney, you know. Yeah, you could, but then you need certain conditions. You need criminalists and access, at least to people who suffered, who survived, who can provide commentary. You need to verify their wounds and verify their opinions and knowledge, and they probably will not let anyone in. True, but you can still try to verify that as much as you can. Yeah. All right, now let's go look at Nikolaev front. That's related to the grain deal that there was the first vessel that sailed, and I don't know which vessel was it, but I saw it started taking Ukrainian grain out from the front, from the port. And then there was a airstrike on Nikolaev, where one of the famous or well-known businessmen in Ukraine related to grain trade died. That asshole Simonyan, a Putin propagandist, already announced that he is a Nazi, and I checked him up. He's basically from the peasant group, from the peasant class, so to say, agricultural workers, and he rose up and was a prominent businessman. Well, that bitch will get her dues eventually. Maybe we'll hang, but if they will keep shooting cities, eventually, different people may die. Do you think that was on purpose? Yeah, we consider our official position, and Mikhail Podolyak said that, and our Attorney General Kostin also declared, one of the versions said that Russians did target his house. How is it doable technically? Well, they could have agents in the city who said the general building where he is. Is it that accurate? Are Russian missiles that accurate? It's not too difficult to hit a side of a big building. Why would they need to assassinate him personally? It's a little more difficult to put all the connections here, but in general, after these grain motions start to happen, then all of a sudden a prominent figure dies. Yeah, you kill him, but there are others. Mark, this is a sum of different things. For me, it looks like this. When we were talking about a complicated deal that they could interrupt or want to interrupt and redo and take over or cancel it, and all of a sudden a person who is in charge of a lot of grain trade dies in the city, I consider these events are connected. And that's my hypothesis in this case. Now, how are they connected? That's a whole other answer, but it deserves investigation too. Just like, remember, Ukrainian plane shot in Tehran, and they were different versions, were there malfunctions or other things, but frankly, in a country that is waiting for an attack of an American airplanes, then and anti-air defenses are on high alert, what would be a first version? Yep, that thing. Same situation here. Too many things connected, and then that death looks very suspicious. So please leave your likes. We have a stream tomorrow, right? Yeah, we do. And I need to say hi to Crimean partisans. Tell me more. Well, these people were, saboteuring little things here and there. They disagreed on certain things, and they were leaving leaflets around and stuff, and that's what they were doing. But now, after that attack on the Central Command of Black Sea Fleet, they basically transitioned to active resistance, if everything that Russia claimed is true. And they basically graduated to that level, which cannot and should not stay unnoticed. And my sincere support and thanks to the guys who are resisting. That's what Russians are protecting Crimea, saying, oh, it's all Russian. All of a sudden, there are people there who are hand-building Bayraktars or amateur versions of that, and putting explosives on them and shooting targets at the Black Sea Command. So, very interesting question. But my personal opinion, those people who are related to that, if there is any risk, try to leave the place. Mark, it's not so simple, those people who suffer that, who are there, whose property was taken away after Russian government came over. There are many people who disagree with what's happening, who suffered under current regime. So if they're resisting, I can only welcome that. All right, I need to remind that we are continuing our charity action. We continue selling some merch on the Ukrainian store. Ukrainian company, Custom Print. They told us we have about 220,000 hryvnias. If I understand it correct, that's about 3 donations at 2,000 euros roughly. So now we'll be sending these to people who lost their limbs and need surgeries and recovery. So everything that we can raise will continue spending on directed help. And of course there is a store in Europe and there is a store in United States. There are links at the bottom of the video. We are not at the disbursement stage there because there is more authorization steps and other things that need to happen. But once that is complete, we'll add those funds from those stores as well. Now, thank you, everybody. And Olexiy, thank you for joining us after 2 days of absence. Many people were complaining, but, you know, things happen. But, Mark, all that week is yours. Yes, every day you'll have me here. Because I told you, August is going to be hot. August is a difficult month for Russia. Something is bound to happen every day. Imagine Putin dies. We'll have an amazing stream. Arestovych may be taking the shirt off. Feygin will be drinking live. I don't know why you're saying that. I never stripped on the video. I don't know what you're talking about it. Mark, no, we'll do that. That's good enough. So, yes, dear audience, don't miss August. That's going to be a good month. Subscribe, click that bell button, and share the links in your social media and send it to the friends who need to see it. Thank you, dear friends. Thank you, Mark. See you tomorrow.